Welcome back to the show, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond Recovery. And today I would like to welcome to the show a man by the name of Paul. Paul, how are you today?
I am well, thank you. Thanks, Matt. It's great to be here.
Great
Very
to have you
exciting.
on. Yeah, absolutely. We had a little bit of a pre-interview, and of course the some messages back and forth on Instagram. But yeah, I just, you know what, I wanted to anybody, especially that's in the sober community, which is fantastic, by the way. The Instagram sober community is just amazing. But I definitely, yeah, right. And I definitely, I want to give your Instagram a shout out because it definitely drew me in. I enjoy your presentation. I like it's at sober on the road with underscores in between each word. So sober underscore on the road. And we'll attach that in show notes. Very good follow. I dig what you're doing. I like your presentation and you seem like a very interesting guy. So I wanted to bring you on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And I get the impression you haven't done too many podcasts. Is that correct?
That is correct. I do a fair amount of public speaking at work, but this is actually my first podcast experience.
Oh, wow.
I did a live session with Liz. I'm gonna butcher her name, Mazzaccio, something like that.
Okay.
A couple weeks ago.
Cool.
Which was delightful. But this is the first podcast. Very
well, I'm honored.
No.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's cool. You got quite the story here. So I'm just going to read off a few things from the bio that you sent me here, just to familiarize just the listeners with what you're all about here. The Tai Chi. I definitely want to talk to you about that. That's a big thing. I can only imagine it's a big part of what's helped you anchor your recovery and such. Yeah. Chef Jerry Garcia, Grateful Dead-head, love it. Excellence, a music lover of animals. I got a couple dogs. Actually, one of my dog's birthdays today. So, outdoors art, books, photography, fun, just overall, like, it seems like you keep very busy and you have a lot of interests and a lot of common interests to myself. So, but yeah, first off, congratulations, 30 years sober. Yeah. Amazing stuff. It's great. I'm having a lot of people that are, the beginning stages of their sobriety. So it's great to have. I had Gary Kay. I don't know if you're familiar with him as well, on one of the earlier episodes as well. So it's also good to have, the folks that are, long standing in their sobriety. So let's get right into it. What can you say about 30 years sober? Let's roll back the clock. So before that, what did your relationship look like with alcohol growing up? Was it in your family? Just paint that picture for us, please.
Yeah, it's everywhere. So I had a very fun relationship with alcohol for, I would say, about 7 years, where I was probably drinking alcoholically, though. I don't think I ever had one beer. Okay? I now had it. Was it in a form where I was like jonesing in the morning or affecting my work or my studies or anything? No, but I was probably always an excessive drinker. I had a lot of fun, and I am not going to tell you that I didn't have a lot of fun. There was a time when it was fun, and then it transitioned to not being fun, right? And alcohol in the family, both sides, double winner. My father succumbed to cigarettes early, to unfiltered Marlboros, but I am sure the Scotch and gin did not figure positively in that equation. I was, in my mind's eye, therefore a beer drinker, and so that seemed. And it was true, because I could definitely handle beer better than hard alcohol, and that was always the case. Especially at the end of the drinking, oh my. But I spent my junior year abroad in Italy. I went to Johns Hopkins Graduate Center to study economics and political science, and ended up falling in love with art and food. And that formed a great deal of I became politicized as well, and awake to politics, and when I came back, I became the most overeducated dishwasher on the planet.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there were no jobs. Anybody who goes back goes back, 40 years, there was not much happening. And so I was in the restaurant, and it spoke to me. The restaurant life absolutely spoke to me. It was the buzz, right? And it was that same tension and release you got from the show. It was it was beauty out of chaos. And at the same time, it was the time when drinking and cocaine were insane in the restaurant business. They may still well be, but it's much more undercover, I believe. It was flagrant. I was fortunate that coke did not speak to my neuroreceptors. I did my share, but it just never grabbed me, right? So I never had that issue. But I was drinking heavily and working a million hours and 3 jobs, every up and coming, here's a guy with a degree in economics and political science and a minor in art history. He's now a line cook, right? And making his way. But it was good. It was good. It was under control. And then I rose. I started cooking in some good places and learning from good chefs. And I rose to the level of the executive sous chef at the Roosevelt Hotel in Manhattan, which is just closed recently in COVID, but it was a beautiful Art Deco dinosaur. Oh my God. It was just an absolutely beautiful place. And I got sick at the same time. I was just feeling just worse and worse and worse. And it wasn't all alcohol related. It was like physical ailments. And I'm like, yeah, is this what 30 feels like? Oh my God, no wonder you drink. And it was also a very high stress level job. I was between, and tell me if I'm getting too detailed here.
No, it's great. Yeah. No, it's great. Keep going. Yeah.
I worked between the executive chef, who was management, and the banquet chef, who was union, and who also happened to be the shop steward for the union in the hotel. So adversarial doesn't begin to describe their relationship. And I think hatred comes close, pure hatred, pretty much. Okay. And I lived in between them. And basically had to broker deals, literally, between demands on staffing, responsibilities, even what I could do, because technically I was management, wasn't supposed to pick up a knife, but I got to know those guys. I was a cook. I had cred, so we worked it out. However, it was stressful, and I was in pain, and I started drinking on the train, drinking at night on the train home from New York City, and then started drinking on the way too. So it gradually had its claws in me, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And one night, I was never a blacked out drinker, but one night, this probably personifies my bottom. I was on the train and I fell asleep, and not all the trains platform. If the railroads out here in Connecticut, some of the stations are smaller, so they make an announcement. If you're in the rear 4 cars, you need to move forward, or you're in the front back, you need to move back. I woke up and I was sure that I was in the back cars, and I went running, probably more staggering, and pulled the door open, and it was the front car of the train. That door should not have opened, and I almost stepped into nothingness at about 70 miles an hour.
Oof.
And it literally blew me back into the
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's when I decided that I was an alcoholic. Did I quit then? No, it took another couple of weeks. But I finally, friends and family, interestingly enough, an Irish Day celebration, known for stage sober exhibitions.
Yeah.
I was cooked by 11 o'clock in the morning,
Mm.
making barbecue sauce, and there was barbecue sauce all over the kitchen. It was literally a shit show. And they said, "Have you had enough?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've had enough."
Mm.
And that was my end, June 15th, 1991.
June 15th, 91. Amazing. Amazing stories.
So that's where it's slippery. The analogy I like to say is, you go and play softball, then you go and play softball and have a beer afterwards, then you go and play softball and have a beer during, and then you go and
Mm.
have beers and maybe play a little softball, and then you're
Right.
drinking beers and watching softball, and then you're just drinking beers, right?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I love how how you framed that.
So
It's really good.
you could peg that to different points along my continuum, and everybody's
Mm.
got their own version of it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. Great stories. So yeah, like just to kind of rehash like what you said, it's about 7 years that there was the progression to the point of this, like you said, your manifestation of a rock bottom moment, what could have been much scarier than it was, ended up
yeah,
being a close call, to your
yep,
point. And then it's like, as with, let's face it, as with most of us, myself included, there's that moment where it's like the tap on the shoulders become a smack to the head, and you still
it
need
was
another couple weeks to think about it. So I
it
totally
was.
relate to that.
I still can feel like
That,
when I ride the train now, I look at that door suspiciously.
yeah, right. Yeah, I could see that. That has a
Yep.
profound,
Ye-
lasting impact on you. Yeah.
Yeah, profound's a great word for it.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
so at this point, I'm still sick though, right? So
Mm.
physically sick, and like it just my body aches, headaches, stiff necks, stiff joints, difficulty concentrating. Um, they ran it. They did AIDS tests. They did, I mean,
Wow. Yeah.
and I was going to see a chiropractor because the adjustments would buy me a few hours of relative peace,
Mm.
and then I would feel like I was on fire again, quite honestly.
Wow.
And I went to the chiropractor, and he had a new assistant, this kid. And if this kid is listening, he's probably now an adult chiropractor. He said we should run a Lyme titer on him, and the chiropractor said, "Sure, what's that?" A blood test to see if he's got Lyme disease, because I think he's got
Oh.
Lyme disease.
Oh, wow.
They ran the test, and I remember it was my daughter's birthday on a Sunday, and I was laying on the floor in the middle of the living room, the party going on around me, because I was literally broken. I ended up going down to 106 pounds. Uh,
Wow.
turned my head fast, electricity coming out of my arms. I
Mm.
didn't brace myself to sneeze. Pain went from my genitals up my spine and out the top of my head. It was unlike
Wow.
anything. It is my standard for pain. Like,
Sure. Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Wow.
the doctor's office called on a Sunday because my Lyme titer was sky high. And so I subsequently went through every antibiotic on the planet. They start you on doxycycline, broad based, and I quickly nothing. They kept moving me up. Now I don't know if you know anything about Lyme disease, but it's a spirochete.
Mm.
It's a couple genetic markers over from syphilis.
Oh, I did not know that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
syphilis is a really nasty disease.
You're
It,
right.
it, it, it's a spirochete, and it is very polarizing in the medical community. There are
Hmm.
people who believe that there's chronic Lyme. There are people who don't believe it.
Hmm.
Um, I happen to believe it because I've lived it,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
and it's always very funny when one of those guys gets it. Um,
Yeah. Right.
you
Yeah. You still don't believe it, or yeah.
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 And so I was literally broken, and
Mm.
my brother-in-law, who is of all things a martial anthropologist, in addition to other things,
Mm.
his academic career was devoted to studying uh, the transition of the martial arts to this country, and what's right and what's wrong about it, the dojos and
Oh, wow.
all the ritual and all that.
Yeah. Interesting.
He said to me, "You ought to try Tai Chi."
The Tai, here's where Tai Chi comes in. Okay, cool, cool.
So I said, great, love to. What do I, start looking, can't find anything. I was in a health food store because I was trying the low inflammation diet. And this is all pre-internet, right?
Right. Yeah, sure.
Right. This is
Yeah.
all pre-internet.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
And there's a flyer. It was like, it was absolutely serendipitous. And there's a flyer for Eagles Quest Tai Chi. And it's class in Westport. Now, Westport's an expensive town, a couple towns over from where I lived. I was like, no, this is good. I'm going to bankrupt myself, but if this works, I don't care. So I take the tab and I call it, and I call the guy, and I give him a brief synopsis of the story, much briefer than this one, by the way, and and he goes, I think I can help you, but I need to see you. And I said, well, I'm concerned about cost. And he said, well, it's $100. And I said, a session? And he said, no, that's for 10 sessions. And I was like, okay, when can we meet?
Right.
And I am studying with that man to this day.
Really? Okay. And so that was in 91 as well? Was that same year?
That was about 92 and a half.
Okay.
So,
okay. So there was still a good year and
so,
a half. So question for you, like with the Lyme disease, do you feel, can you track that back to when you actually acquired that? Was
so that's a really interesting question. So it's a tick-borne disease. It's a deer tick that and actually Lyme research has opened up all these portals to all these other tick diseases that are not fun either. But I went for a physical, and they noticed a slight irregularity in my EKG, just a minor blip, nothing health threatening, just a weird. And they went to work on it, and they said this is often common to Lyme disease. And then so they went back into previous EKGs for physicals. And I'd probably been walking around with Lyme since '89.
Whoa.
It was in an '89 EKG.
Good God, eh? So you had that, and then forgive me for not knowing like really any. I knew it was a tick-based disease, but so what is the cure for it? Is it incurable, or do you just have to manage?
So like so many things, including alcoholism, early treatment.
Gotcha.
Early intervention.
Yes.
The broad base, the doxycycline, like you find your kid with a tick on its head.
Yeah.
And the other thing is it gives you a bull. I think about 50% of the time, I haven't looked at the numbers recently. They used to say 40 or 50% of the time, you would get a bullseye rash around the bite because the tick is tiny. It's not like it's not like a wood tick that you can.
Okay.
They're
really? Tiny. Jeez, eh? Wow.
Yeah. But 50% of the time you get that bullseye.
Yeah.
You get that if you see that bullseye and you get treatment, you're not gonna have any problems. It's when it's left untreated. And then it goes into the spinal fluid, it goes into your brain. I know people who had detached retinas from it.
Wow.
And because it's a very complex disease, it manifests itself differently. It presents itself differently it's almost idiosyncratic.
Yeah, that's wow. That's crazy. So then of course, 89, by the time that you're, diagnosed with it, well past, any, early treatment. So at this point you're basically finding ways to manage having this as a visitor, as a tourist in your body, and hence the Tai Chi is.
And there was one other piece that I have to add to it. The alcohol helped until it didn't, right?
Yes. Yep.
And diminishing returns to scale. Anybody wants an explanation of diminishing returns to scale? I got one, right?
Yeah, right. That's
so when I went into treatment, they wanted to put me on painkillers as well. And I said, look, I'm new. I'm sober. And I also had the added benefit of uh, Percodan and Percocet making me sick to my stomach. So I didn't like them to begin with.
Right.
And at heart, I wasn't a pill guy. I was a beer guy,
Right.
and
Yeah.
it became a vodka guy, of course, like we all do. But so they said, okay, well, we've got a new painkiller that's not going to be habit forming. It's called Vicodin, and I promptly got hooked on Vicodin. And so a half hour after I take a Vicodin, I would be singing show tunes I didn't even know I knew. I couldn't. So Lyme disease took my ability to speak Italian, my ability to speak French away. I had this oddball thing of being able to multiply large numbers. Like, it was kind of weird. One of those weird things. That disappeared.
Sure.
I couldn't read out loud for 5 years.
Wow. Yeah.
I couldn't remember anything. I'd go into the grocery store with a list. I'd come out with having lost the list, nothing on it. It would be a mess. And then I'd be unable to find the car. Couldn't remember where the car is.
Yeah.
And then one time I literally then found the car, so overjoyed to find the car, I dropped the keys down a storm sewer.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So,
yeah.
Wow. That was Lyme disease. So,
my goodness.
But I don't know if anybody's listening has ever had to beat Vicodin, but or seen the movie The French Connection, where what's his name? Oh my God, having a moment. The actor in The French Connection is hooked on heroin by the bad guys, and then he has to beat it by going cold turkey. That's what I did. I went cold turkey. Gene Hackman. I went cold turkey.
I was gonna say Paul Newman, but he's not in that either. Okay, Gene Hackman. Yeah, totally. Good call. Yeah.
I went cold turkey one weekend, and I just had to do it, and it was really, really bad. But I know so. Obviously, I'm very, very careful with painkillers.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's too bad. It's like, sorry, just to interject. It's like they tell you that it's not. It's they have this new one that you don't have to worry about the habit forming, and then look what happens, right? So it's just kind of too bad how that worked out.
It's still not habit forming. I'm gonna take 2.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I got you. Yep. Yeah. For sure.
Yep. So anyway, that's all part and parcel of getting to Tai Chi, and I owe my life to the guy I studied with, David Chandler. Just patient.
Yeah.
And his wife at the time, also a great Tai Chi teacher. Like, just learning balance, getting the strength to stand on one foot, and then starting to understand that it took a long time. Science is just now catching up with why Tai Chi works. And one of the main reasons is it is an amazing lymph pump. So we've got, and lymph is an integral part of our well-being, our just our overall health, our immune system, everything. And we have got the heart to pump blood. We've got lungs to move air, right?
Yeah.
The brain sends electricity. But lymph, we rely on exercise to do that. So any exercise is good exercise for moving lymph. But Tai Chi is particularly effective because it's about shifting and turning, which is opening what Eastern medicine calls the gates. Like, we call them joints.
Okay. Yep.
In Eastern medicine, they're gates.
Gates.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And it opens gates and moves lymph. It probably took me 6 months of faith that this was going to help, and then it started helping, and then it just became the curve was pretty spectacular.
Really?
Because I was broken.
Yeah.
I was 106 pounds and I weigh 160 now. So
wow. Yeah. Right. So interesting. So 6 months, like you say, just going on faith. Just trying it out. And then when it did hit, it hit, and it, like you say, a big return on that. And you haven't looked
Yeah,
back since.
there were a couple aha moments in there where there were some moving meditations for energy where all of a sudden I felt awake and like
Interesting.
like awake and present, and that's when the mindfulness thing starts to kick in, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you know, I live in I work in a business where, from chefing to what I'm doing now with food, it's multitasking, but
Right. Mhm.
it's knowing how to focus, and that other stuff is moving, but your focus is here, and then you move your focus here, and then you move your, rather than divided
Gotcha.
focus, it's,
Yes.
yeah,
I
and
love that.
then you decide whether it's linear or circular, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's a really cool way of looking at it. So,
Yeah.
not only did it help you physically, but the mental and the mental side of it, and the focus, the mindfulness, to your point, right? Obviously
and it
huge as well.
and it dovetails with, like, when I got sober, it was AA or the highway. You
Mm,
there was a little bit of rational recovery, but it was almost impossible to find a meeting.
yeah, interesting.
Um, uh, you could there were opportunities. They weren't nothing was formalized back then. Like
Sure, sure.
AA was
Yeah.
formalized,
Yeah.
and so it was AA and Tai Chi. So
Yeah. That was the two. But and like you say, like Tai Chi, out of it, there's like so many different benefits that come with it: the mental, the physical, the ability to refocus and all that. So I imagine too that it sounds like, you being a music lover, music has always been a big part of you. Question for you though: does Tai Chi, do you have music that you do it to? Is it supposed to be quiet?
that's a fantastic question.
Yes.
So there is absolutely music to do it too.
Hmm.
There is specific. There are musicians who write pieces for specific forms.
Really?
So there are 5 schools of Tai Chi.
Okay.
There are my guy teaches a hybrid of all 5, so it's really lovely.
That's cool.
But my gift to him was he had certain warm-up music. There's a whole set of Tai Chi warm-up exercises that takes anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes if you're really doing it properly before you
Mm.
play for it. And very interesting, Matt, you play Tai Chi.
Play. It's not a
You don't
practice.
do Tai Chi.
You
You
don't
play
do.
Tai
You
Chi
play Tai Chi. I like that.
to
That's cool.
develop a practice.
Ah, there we go. Okay.
Right. Right.
That's cool. You play
So,
Tai
but
Chi to develop a practice.
I started bringing alternative music for warm-ups because I became a teaching assistant, uh, and now I teach on my own.
Cool.
And so we find all kinds of music works for Tai Chi. So I of course found a great strength from the lyrics of there's a lot of great recovery lyrics in Grateful Dead music.
Is that right?
So
Interesting. I
so
don't know
there's
that.
this tapestry or double helix thing going on, where that comes in. So yeah,
Yes.
I play a lot to blues for Allah is a
Ooh,
great,
nice. Okay. Yeah.
that's a good one. But
Wonderful.
yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. What people don't understand about Tai Chi is that it's foundationally it's a martial art that
Mm.
has been slowed down.
Is
So
that what it is? Okay. Yeah.
when you speed it up, it's very badass kung fu. Like most of the other schools don't like to mess with Tai Chi guys that know what they're doing
Really?
because it's easy to get hurt, right?
Yeah, sure.
Right? Because it's really just it's very much like I forget which the Japanese form is, the circular Japanese form, but taking an opponent's energy and neutralizing it, and if necessary, directing it back against them.
Wow.
And
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of Bruce Lee stuff has a lot of Tai Chi in it.
Really? I did not know
Yeah,
that. That is
yeah,
amazing. That's super
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Wow. Oh man, you're blowing my mind here. We could almost do a full episode just on Tai Chi. Sounds
Oh,
like, yeah.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start teaching online again.
Are you?
I Yeah.
Oh man, I'll have to. I'm going to reach out to you. It's one of
Yeah.
these things I've always had in my periphery that I've always wanted to try. So now that I know somebody that's has such a vast history with it and has done so much for your life,
Oh, it's
yeah,
incredible. Just
that
incredible.
sounds amazing. Yeah, it sounds amazing. So 30 plus years, and isn't it a crazy story when you really think about the fact that you went to this health food store, you saw something caught your eye that made you look at this poster or flyer or whatever it was. You grab that number, and here we are 30 plus years talking about it on a podcast. Isn't that
Yep.
crazy how life works? Like you said,
It,
serendipitous, right? It was
it's,
meant to happen.
I honestly think it was meant to happen. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested to say, okay, Grateful Dead, because anybody that's in Grateful Dead, I have to ask the question. Were you ever a fan to the point that you would do the, where like one of the Deadheads that would kind of follow them around a bit? Did you follow them on tour at all? What is your
so
level of,
yes.
yeah. Okay, perfect. Let me hear about this.
Yeah, yes. But it was always a little more. There's probably a little more strategy involved than the average deadheads just following them across the country and
Yeah.
waiting for that serendipitous thing to happen. Serendipitous thing certainly did happen. The uh, the probably most interesting set of shows was my senior year. I went to Dickinson College out in Carlisle, and the Dead would start an East Coast tour, and they would start down in Hampton, Virginia, and then they progress typically to DC and then to Philly, and then maybe a side stop, and then New York, and then up to Boston, maybe Hartford. That would be kind of a swing. And my finals week in senior year of college, I went to Hampton, Virginia, came back and took a final. Capital Center, I think it was, back to take a final.
Wow.
And then Philadelphia, and then the best one, the best part was they the foolish people, the lovely foolish people at my college, deemed it okay that a group of us with the music committee take a couple of school buses to see the Grateful Dead at Lafayette College in Easton, Pennsylvania, which is near
Wow.
Allentown,
Yeah.
in a gymnasium. 1979, still a gymnasium.
What? Wow. That's
Yep.
crazy story.
Yep.
They let you.
And I never did better academically than I did on those tests. It was just,
Hey, there you
it
go.
was one giant, huge high.
Wow. Yeah. Right. And then look, you got the results. That is a crazy story. I'm glad that you shared that. Thanks. That's hilarious.
I can still remember they opened the doors at Lafayette and to this tiny gym, and the crowd pushed in. And back then, I probably weighed 130 pounds, and I just popped up and I backstroked into the Grateful Dead show. I just
No
remember.
way. It's
Yeah, it was
so
awesome.
appropriate. So appropriate too, right?
Yeah.
That is awesome. What a great story. Oh man. Yeah. The Grateful Dead is like, to me, like I much preferred listening to like their live performances. I had a satellite.
Absolutely.
It was just amazing. Like the satellite radio versions where it's just like they just get to
Yeah.
perform in their element. So much better than, in my opinion, than the album, the studio albums. I was like, yeah,
there's no question. The studio records I've come to love, but then you go and track down the live versions of those
oh
songs, and and that's the amazing thing, is they
yeah,
encourage the early taping of it.
right, yeah, exactly.
Garcia said, well, after we've played it, we're done with it, so do
Yeah,
with it what you want, right?
that's right.
And
And and that just added to the mystique, because it was like there was
oh
like the tape trading and all the other
oh
stuff
my
that would
god.
happen from it, right? So
Oh my God!
yeah.
If you got to sit with the tapers, it was always a trip. It was
Oh, I
always
can imagine. Yeah.
like because you had the Pokemon. Oh yeah, you need, because back then it wasn't digital. You had to.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, brother, your tape's running out.
Yeah. Right.
So
Yeah.
there are a lot of tapes out there that are incredibly high quality. There's Nakamichi decks that were very popular, that did a great job, and they had good microphones.
Yeah.
But you had to stay awake to change the tape, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Don't get too inebriated, shall we
Yeah,
say, right? You gotta,
get stoned
yeah.
and missed it.
Yeah. Right. Oh, too funny. Do you still have any friends from your Grateful Dead
Oh
days?
my
Or
God.
yeah.
So the guys I lived in Italy with, we were all deadheads, and
Cool.
we are
Cool.
in touch with them. I had this talk about serendipity. Last October, I had to go to Albuquerque on business, so I was like, I'm always looking to see, the sober on the road thing. I'm always looking to see, like, what if I take an extra half day, what kind of fun can I have?
Yes. I love
And
it.
so I looked it up, and I literally landed in the middle of the Albuquerque International Hot Air Balloon Festival, which
Oh,
is the most absolutely mind-blowing. If you like color and
yeah.
you like childlike, and you just want to rediscover that joy of when you were a kid. I went there, and and I did a little reading and said, get out there at 5 a.m. and they send up the dawn patrol. The first 7 or 8 balloons they go up, because there's this weird thing called the Albuquerque box, where at one height the balloons go this way, and
Mm.
then they ascend. They put the flame, and then the currents take them back this way, and then back down, so they
Mm.
can do this vertical loop, and they
Wow.
can race, and there are even poles to grab prizes off of. So anyway,
Wow.
they send the dawn
Yeah.
patrol up
Yeah.
to see whether the atmospheric conditions are holding to that pattern or whatever.
Gotcha.
5 a.m. It's dark. The balloons fire up. 7 balloons go up. There's thousands of people,
Wow.
and I'm like, this is awesome.
Mhm.
I've got a great cup of coffee, and I'm talking to
Mm.
people I've never met before, and we're
Yeah.
all there for the same thing. And
Cool.
it's still in COVID, and people are just letting all their baggage go.
Mm.
And then I said, well, what happens then? And he's like, well, the sun comes up, and then all the other balloons will start to go. So I'm just wandering around. The sun comes up. I'm literally in a field full of hundreds of balloons inflating around me.
Wow. That'd be a trip. Yeah.
It's an incredible trip.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm having this great day. I mean, I've got to go to work at 9. By 9 o'clock, I've had one of the best days I've had in 100 years.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all. I'm playing with house money at this point.
Yes.
I let a couple pictures go to my friends, Grateful Dead friends, and one of them like immediately texts me back, "Are you there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
in Santa Fe." Guy comes. So the rest of the day was him driving down, and us spending a beautiful afternoon hiking around Albuquerque, having a great dinner.
Ah,
Serendipitous.
it's great.
So, but that
Love it.
grateful, the you know,
Yeah.
long story short, that
Yeah.
Grateful Dead connection is lifelong.
That's cool. It's like, yeah, I like this membership that you have for the rest of your life, essentially. Eh? It
Yeah.
sounds like you can find these. So,
Yeah, and when we trip across different versions of things, because stuff is still surfacing. I mean, the
yeah,
3,000 show stuff is still surfacing.
right. Yeah.
It circulates around
That's
immediately.
cool.
So,
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So you still got the the essence of that connection that you guys have.
oh,
It's still very much
strong, maybe
alive, right?
stronger than even then.
Isn't that cool? Because over time, it just accumulates this extra energy to it, doesn't it? There's some more
Yeah,
depth
it
the further on you get.
it has its own gravitational pull.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. That's super cool. Let's talk. So one of the first things that drew me into you, just again, to your presentation, the sober on the road. So what is that like? Is it your stories? How would you describe your like Instagram, channel, we'll call it?
So it's really that's thank you for asking.
Yeah.
So the ironic thing is, I had been thinking about one. I discovered this sober community on Instagram, and I'm like, there are a lot of people, there are a lot of day counters, and
Mm,
I don't care how you get sober. I don't care whether you believe in AA or Recover Out Loud, because if you listen to both sides, if you quiet down and you listen, most of the stuff they're saying is the same.
right.
Okay,
Yep.
there's some spiritual, religious attachments here or there, whatever. But for me, if it works, right?
Totally. Yeah.
But what I wanted to do was to show people that you know I'm as effed up as anybody on the planet,
Mm,
and I have 30 years, right?
yeah.
And I wanted to share why. And then the second piece was
Mm,
I've I've been traveling extensively on business the last 5 years.
mm,
And I I realize, and I watch behavior. I watch behavior of people I travel with. I watch behavior at airports, and I'm like, you know what? I know there are people struggling with this stuff, and
Mm,
just some, it's not rocket science what I offer in terms of that.
mm.
I always counsel, invest time in your recovery by invest time in your travel, right?
Oh, cool.
So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's where. And are you familiar with the Sober Illustrator?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you need to reach out to her.
Okay, I will.
Um, she'll take a picture of you and with your background. Oh my God, be beautiful. Uh,
Oh, fantastic.
uh,
I'll reach out.
and it's like a caricature, but colorful, but it's hard to describe. Um, but she is amazing, and she saw my stuff and latched on, started following, and I started talking to her, and I, she'll do your portrait for $75,
Cool. Yeah.
and so I had her do mine,
Cool.
and uh, when I posted it, she took it and she posted it. She's got like 1 trillion followers. And
Wow.
I went from 3 followers to like 50 in 5 minutes, and like
Wow.
and so now it's building, and uh you know people are counting days, I'm counting followers. uh
Yes.
but
Yeah.
the idea that now there's 350 people who at least even obliquely um know that I'm there to support them,
Yeah.
and that that I learn from them. I, you know, you know. Did you watch Ted Lasso, the
Name
series?
No, the name rings a bell. No, I'm not I didn't
It's
watch
an
it though.
Apple TV series, and
Yeah.
it's an American football coach who basically gets hoodwinked into coaching an English soccer team,
Oh,
and
okay.
but
Funny.
the character is in many ways based on another one of my heroes, John Wooden.
Okay.
And but Ted Lasso's thing is, if you're not curious, if you've lost your curiosity, you need to find it.
Ooh, yeah. So good.
Curiosity about life. And
So
so
good.
I'm very curious at all these people that, and the people that aren't following me, the people that I'm following that haven't followed me back,
Mm.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's it, and it has absolutely strengthened. I went beyond obsession and compulsion many, many moons ago.
Mm.
But so it stopped being a daily struggle a long time ago. It became the biggest gift I ever gave myself. Having
Yeah.
said that, I need to safeguard it, right?
Yes. Completely. No, well, very well said. And you know what? That's what I was going to ask you about, kind of as we, look at winding down. It's like when you're 30 years in, I was going to ask you for some insight, and that's brilliant right there. It's like, it's not something to paraphrase you. It's not something as a daily, you don't think about it daily, but you safeguard it. I love that. That's
Right.
tremendous. So yeah. So what in your 30 years, can you reflect back on any points, if there are any, where there was some closer to, like, walking up to that relapse line?
It
Did
was
you
it
have
was
any
it was definitely in the first 5 years.
first 5 years? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so my experience is the milestones where I moved, and I think I see people move, is 30 days, 90 days. I have a friend who calls it the 90-day short program. He likens it to figure skating,
Mm.
where they used to have to do the compulsory school figures, but now it's just a short program.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Yeah.
and if you complete the short program in good shape, you've got a really good chance to crush the long skate, right? And
Okay. Yeah.
and
Interesting. It's an interesting
so
analogy.
I think 90 days, I think a
Yeah.
year. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think just like the sophomore jinx for athletes and recording artists,
Yep.
they the year two is uh, fraught with peril, because
Interesting.
you think you might be able
You
to
think you
moderate.
absolutely. I love
And rather than, so what
yeah.
happened to me is I never stopped. I never, really, I never wanted the answer whether I could moderate or not. I just stopped caring because what I have,
Mm,
it's irrelevant to me, right? But that doesn't always happen. So for me, it's, you know, I don't know, maybe I could moderate, but I have no interest in it because the downside, if I'm wrong, to throw away
yep.
everything I have, not
Yes.
just not just materially, but spiritually, emotionally.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and there is, you get sober for yourself, right? You
Mm,
can't, you can get sober for your wife, your girlfriend, your kids, your boyfriend. You can, but ultimately you have to end up doing it for yourself. But then you build a trust with the community. I I have a
mm,
group of friends that I can no more fathom telling them I went out for a drink. I don't know how I would do it. I
right.
honestly, I
Right.
I honestly don't know how. There's about seven of them, um, that, like, I don't know how, and that's our deal. Is if you ever think you're going to, you need to call somebody. That's the promise. Is you're
Mm,
going to make that phone call,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And because that's the other thing. I don't know how much you guys talk about um, cravings,
Mm,
but my Tai Chi teacher says cravings pass in 8 minutes. And that
right.
has been my experience.
Yeah.
Some people say 20 minutes, but the point of the matter is they pass. Find
Right.
something else to do
Exactly. Yeah.
rather than perseverate on the craving.
100%. That is a big, a topic, especially with the folks that are early on, where they, it's as soon as you can give them a stat or an information like that. And to your point, it could be, whether it's 8 minutes, whether it's 20 minutes. The point is, it's something that it's a
Yeah,
fairly small increment of time that,
it's
right?
brief.
Brief, like, because you think 10 minutes is like 1% of your day, literally, of the
Yeah,
time that you're awake, right? So
yeah, exactly.
absolutely. No, I'm glad that you mentioned that too.
Yeah,
Some great insight as far as what, folks that are starting out, or folks that are like me. I'm 3 years in, so
I was
got a
going to
little
ask you
ways to catch up
how
to you,
far.
but
So Matt, you have an old soul, first of all.
oh, thanks.
I mean, and that's the best quality. That is one of the most positive things I can tell you.
Yeah, I take it as such. So thank you very
Yeah,
much. I appreciate
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And so your 3 years, you've probably thought through it. In I mean, here you are, right? This is what you're
Right.
doing,
Yeah. Definitely.
and
Yeah.
I bet you it helps you safeguard it, right?
100%. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, for sure. And I've told that to every single guest I've had on. Is like, it's a great way for me. Now, the difference between, I had a 3-year sobriety stint from 2012 to 2015. The difference between this one is I am being 100% open about it. I'm championing it. As before, I kind of had it safeguarded from other
Right,
people as well. So there was this
right.
gray area where I was able to go back out and do the moderation thing. Of course, the 0% success rate, but I tried, right? And I'll get into that when we, get off air. I'll tell you a little bit about my story, as you'd mentioned, but yeah, some great insight, Paul. And when you get back into this online teaching, please, I'll raise my hand as far as
Yeah. Oh,
getting into this with you.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a little challenging teaching it online.
sure.
Um, there's nothing like the energy. It's just like a Grateful Dead show. You feed off the energy, and the energy's
Yeah.
palpable. But
Yeah.
it can happen on Zoom. I've seen
Excellent.
it happen,
Super
and
cool.
and moreover, you can learn the choreography, as it were, on Zoom, and then you take it to the beach. You take it to your
Super cool.
friends, and then it becomes I don't know what the word is I'm searching for, but it
Yeah.
becomes.
Yeah, exactly. There it becomes. What is your favorite spot to do Tai Chi? I said beach immediately. I'm like, man, that sounds amazing. What is like the most
So
invigorating
so
experience of Tai Chi
so
that you've had?
so one of the fundamental precepts of Tai Chi is to be like water.
Mm,
So
nice.
I always like to be near water. I really love being on a small bridge or a rock over a creek,
Ooh,
or near where a tide rises, a jetty.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So I really like being near water. Having said that, went on a trip to the Tetons in Yellowstone right
Ooh,
before COVID.
yeah.
Uh, and I have to tell you, Tai Chi in the Tetons doesn't suck either.
Right.
So,
That sounds
yeah,
amazing. Sounds amazing.
yeah.
And one final question for you, Paul, before it was just to go hand in hand with the traveling part. If you could visit one location on planet Earth, where would it be and why?
Ah, can I break it down into revisit and visit?
Absolutely. Yes, please do. Yes.
So revisit. My heart is in Florence.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely in Florence.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I would love to play Tai Chi up on the Piazzale in Michelangelo, which is
Ooh.
up above the city where you see that beautiful the cathedral and the bell tower and all the red doors,
Okay.
all that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the revisit. And
Yes.
the visit, I think there's so many places, but I think I want to go to the Grand Canyon.
Ooh, good
I have a
choice.
friend who has done led raft trips, who is a Tai Chi student of mine, by the way,
Cool.
uh, who has led rafting expeditions through the Grand Canyon. And I'd like to do it before the water disappears, which is I'm
Mm,
terrified it's going to happen. So,
right. Good
but
answer.
the Canadian Rockies, they're on the
Yeah.
list. Alaska's on the list.
Yes. Canadian Rockies. 100%. Yeah. Beautiful. I go there every year. As you can imagine, I'm about 4 hours away from
Yeah,
Jasper, 4 hours away from Banff as well. So lucky
yeah,
that way.
those are on the list as well.
Oh yeah, you will get immense enjoyment out of that. I promise you that. So, Paul, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Great story, wonderful story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
I
anytime.
hope this opens some doors for folks. That's all I can hope for, and I appreciate the opportunity.
And yes, thank you so much for coming on. And as always with all my guests, you're more than welcome to come on anytime. The door is always open. Love to, if you have something going on that you want to share, by all means, just reach out to me. Would love to have you back on.
Well, maybe we'll do a Tai Chi thing.
I would love that. That sounds great. Let's do it.
All
Excellent.
right.
Thanks so
Thanks, Matt.
much. Bye-bye.